Welcome back to Floss Law. All right, let's talk about what does a real estate closing look like during the COVID-19 pandemic, right, on Floss Law. If you're following along on social media, on YouTube, please subscribe, hit like, leave a good comment. It really helps out a lot. So, if you have a real estate transaction, are you thinking about putting a property under contract or trying to sell your property? Can you still close on your property while all this is going on? The answer is absolutely yes. Everything that's available, all the services for closing real estate are still open. The title companies are open, the attorneys are open, the realtors are open, the banks are open. Really, as long as the banks stay open, everyone else related to real estate is going to stay open and continue working. We've been working nonstop in the office here to try to keep all of our transactions moving forward. A lot of people are in a state of panic, very confused, and we're just trying to assure everyone we're doing everything we can, we're keeping everything moving forward. The lenders are still getting loans clear to close. Closings are still getting scheduled. Everything's moving the way it normally should. What are the big differences? The big differences are going forward, or at least for the next 30 to 60 days. Special rules have been implemented as far as how we're going to do the closing procedure. So everything's more or less going to feel the same until it comes time for closing day. On closing day, you used to have everyone show up to the title company. Sometimes it was a little bit of a party atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. Everyone signed the documents. You'd hand over the keys, and you bought and sold your house. Not anymore. So the title companies initially requested only essential people show up to the title company. So what does that mean? If you are a seller of a property, it might sound weird to say, but you are not essential. If you are the seller of a property, you can pre-sign all of your documents. Really, the main documents for you as the seller are the deed, the affidavit of title, and the bill of sale. Obviously, the settlement statement too, but the settlement statement and the other documents you sign can be signed either ahead of time or over email. You can also, after you sign the deed, the bill of sale, and those documents, can give your attorney the power of attorney to sign all those documents for you. So you really don't need to be there. It sounds weird to say, but you don't. You can stay home or move into where your next place is or whatever. The seller's attorney, when I'm representing the seller side, I really don't need to be there because I will make all the arrangements with my seller ahead of time. We're going to review all the documents ahead of time. We're going to execute those documents ahead of time, and then we're going to send them to the title company. Everything's going to be there ready to go. I don't need to be at the title company. We're limiting as much exposure as we can. Now, I'm still obviously conducting the closing, but I'm conducting the closing at that point via email. Everything at that point I can do over email going back and forth. Again, as long as they have those original documents, the deed and the bill of sale, after the title, that stuff, after that, everything else can be done over email. Now, all the people involved with the transaction, the realtors, the lenders, the appraisers, all those people involved, you do not need to be at the closing. So if you're a realtor, you're a lender, normally we love to have you there. It's a lot of fun. I know you guys like to give them the closing gifts, but for right now, for the next 30, maybe even 60 days, please do not come to the closing. You don't need to be there. We'll make sure you get your check and you get all the documents you need from the closing, but it's going to be sent to you. You're not going to go anywhere. Now, the buyer side is where it gets more complicated. So for buyer's attorney and the buyer, the complication becomes in you need to be able to review and sign your mortgage packet. You need to understand all the documents. You need to understand all the closing costs. And typically, you don't get that until the day before, even the day of the closing. So you're walking in. There's your first time to really get an opportunity to understand the extent of all the documents that you're signing. So that's where it gets a little more hard. The title companies initially were allowing the buyers and buyer's attorney to still go to the title companies. I'm starting to see more title companies instituting what they're calling a drive-by closing or a drive-through closing. They are essentially allowing the buyer to stay in their car. The title company, some of them have even seen, will have like a tent in the parking lot, and they'll have the representative out in the tent outside. They will bring them to their car, the documents with it tabbed everywhere they need to sign. At that point, then it sort of becomes weird for me what my responsibility is. Do I go to the title company and sit in the car with you as the buyer? I've had some buyers just say, look, well, during the closing, I'll sit in my car. You FaceTime me and we'll go over the documents together over FaceTime, because everyone's trying to limit as much exposure as they can. Nobody wants to get exposed to any unnecessary viruses, or obviously get the COVID-19 virus right now. So the way we've been doing it, at least for the last week, has been the buyer going to the title company, being given the documents, signing the documents, and then me talking the client through, here's what the mortgage is, here's what you're signing, understanding what everything is. But the title companies are actually pushing us more to even me and the buyer being remote, where we're communicating over the phone or over FaceTime, which is very strange for me, because it's usually a very face-to-face experience with me with the buyer explaining the closing documents. But it's extenuating circumstances, so that's kind of how we're proceeding right now. Ideally, we like to get the loans approved as soon as possible. So I would feel better if I can approve or review the mortgage or the closing costs or everything with the buyer maybe the day before, so that they're pretty much ready to go at the closing, could just sign everything, and then it's a much easier process. But sometimes we get it right at the closing, and then I have to try to navigate that and explain it all to them. But that's what a closing looks like right now. Everything is being handled remotely. If you're a cash buyer, we can do an entire cash purchase with no one ever leaving their respective offices. A cash purchase can be done entirely over email. The only thing that needs to be original, sent to the title company, is, again, that deed, the original deed with the original signatures on it, needs to be sent to the title company ahead of time. If you don't send it ahead of time, then the title company can't cut checks. Usually the title company won't cut checks until that original deed is in their possession, in their office, that they can do the e-recording. So you want to get that to them ahead of time. Then when you do the closing, you're finished with the closing, they can cut the checks right there. If you complete the closing, but the deed's going to go there the next day, then they can't really complete the closing until the next day. So just know that you need to get that deed to them. That's the most important thing right now. Is we're doing the FedEx is very happy with me right now, because there's been a lot of overnighting going in and going out of the office right now. So FedEx is getting a lot of really good business from all the real estate attorneys, from all the packages getting overnighted back and forth like crazy. So that's the anatomy of a real estate transaction right now. The keys sometimes, a lot of times, realtors leave them in the lockbox now, or they'll leave them at the property, and then the buyer will, or the seller will leave, one key in the lockbox for the buyer to get access to it, and then the rest of the keys are in the house. I'm trying to think of the details. I mean, obviously, scheduling a mover could be difficult. That could be a little bit of an obstacle. But as far as getting the property closed, we're still doing them. We're still doing them every day. I don't want people to think that the real estate market is falling apart. Honestly, the opposite. I've still been incredibly busy. We're behind on what the spring market should be, but we're still moving. We're still getting contracts in every day. So if you're interested in selling, sell. If you're interested in buying, buy. Things are still operating business as usual. We're still seeing new listings popping up every day. So if you're worried about what's going on with the real estate market, it's going fine. Come on out. If you're interested, we're happy to help you. Just know that your real estate closing experience won't be maybe what you've been used to in the past. It's going to be much more of a remote closing. You're going to be isolated. You're going to be in your car, or you may not even go anywhere. You're just going to be sitting in front of a computer at your office or something like that, or at my office. So that's it, and I will talk to you soon.